So essentially going to show you how you're going to go from this all the way up to this. Hello, welcome back to the channel. This video I'm kind of doing on a bit of a whim, and I'm not sure if it's ever going to see the light of day, and it might be very, very chaotic, but a couple of months ago I did a video basically trying to show you how you can make your own custom themed Monopoly, and a lot of people still have questions, or maybe a lot of people haven't seen that video since it's come out. So I'm basically going to make sort of like a follow-up to that video where I go through in a little bit more detail how to set up your blank Monopoly board, basically. I probably won't go through all the like colour bits on the board and all the painting on the board, because the whole point of this is just to kind of show you how you can set up your own blank board for you to then put whatever theme you want on. Step one, go to Hobbycraft or the Hobbycraft website, and you're going to order a piece of A1 mount board. This one specifically is called the Dahlia Rowney White. And the number, which I will put on the screen now rather than reading it out, like the product number. Here you go. Pause now to read that. But you're gonna get yourself this, which is basically just this big white piece of mount board. And then you're gonna cut this down to 20 inches by 20 inches. And I'll do that now. So hopefully this isn't too difficult to see, but I'm going to kind of show you how I measure it across and then cut it. So 20 inches is 50.8 centimetres. So I've got this, which is a 35 centimetre ruler, which came in this pack, which is like, it's a little guillotine, and this is what I'm going to use to cut it up as well, but you'll see that in a minute. Basically, I will measure across 50.8 centimetres, and I will do that at like several points up here, because obviously I'm gonna have to cut it in like separate strips. So as long as you've got like mark, it doesn't need to be a full line, just like marks that you can line up along the top, that's how you'll cut it. Something I will say, if you're gonna cut it up with a pair of scissors rather than like a guillotine like I've got, or like a proper big guillotine if you're lucky enough to have one of those, is once you've drawn the individual dots, join them up like with a big ruler or like along the dots, you get what I mean. Make sure you have like a full line, and then you can cut, and it will make sure that it's the correct size. I'm going to try and show you how I cut it with this, although I'm not sure how many people are going to have one of these at home. Most of you are probably going to be doing this with scissors, although you can buy these guillotine things in the works for literally £5. So I've lined up the dot on the end here and the dot in the middle, and then cut it. I like to go over it twice just in case, and then just move it up. And what I like to do is lift this bit up, and then line it up with the dot on this end. So like that. And again, do it twice. And then there you go. And then once you've cut it, obviously you're going to be left with just this rounded bit. You can do what you want with that. And then you have this, which means you need to do the same thing again. So this is now the correct distance. You need to do the same again on this side. So rotate it, do exactly the same thing again, and then you'll have the correct size board. Now, one of the biggest questions is, how did I get this colour of paint? I can't quite show you because this is the same pot of paint that I have from when I made the Harry Potter Monopoly. I've still got some left, and hopefully it's going to be enough to do this. I might water it down a little bit. But basically, I just mixed these kind of colours. So a green, a more like darker green that's more blue toned, and then also a bit of blue if needed to make it more blue, and white, and that's basically it. I just used a picture of the original Monopoly for reference, and I just mixed it until it was roughly the right colour. It doesn't really matter too much if your colour isn't perfect. When I paint, I like to start in the corners and kind of work my way in, because the corner's kind of where you want it the most neat, and when you get a bit more central and in the middle, it kind of doesn't matter that much, and any patchiness you're not going to notice, and it's obviously easier to blend into the middle like this than it is to the edges. I've just put down one of the spare pieces of cardboard that came from off of this so that I don't get on the table, basically. So the next part is to draw the lines, and what you're going to want to do is on each corner you want to mark 3 inches along, so 3 inches here and here, and then go along again and go about halfway and mark 3 inches in, and then you're going to draw up those lines. You'll have something that looks like this with a square on each of the corners. I like to do the first initial line in like a thin pen or a pencil, and then I will go over it with a thicker pen. And a question that I always get asked is what pen I use. So it is this one, the Posca pens, but honestly probably a Sharpie would do the job as well. The next bit is the hard bit, because you've got to split this middle bit up into 9 sections, and this is the length of that middle bit, and obviously when you divide that by 9 you get 3.955, which is basically impossible to do with a ruler. So I always do about between 3.9 and 3.4, and it might take a bit of trial and error. It always takes me a couple of attempts to get it right, so I would recommend using a pencil or a very thin pen that will just get covered up when you go over this in the thicker pen. But yeah, so the next stage is I would measure along the top the 3.95 and along the bottom the 3.95, and then join them up. You should have a total of 9 spaces in between this gap here. Can kind of see here where I've got these 2 lines where I got to the end and the last one was like 4.5 centimeters, which is then gonna make the lines all diagonal. So don't be afraid to like go back and remeasure. And something that I will say that I probably should have mentioned before is make sure you still have some leftover paint of the original color, so that if you make any mistakes you can literally just paint over it again with the original paint that you had, and no one will ever know. And then once you've done that, you should have something that looks like this all the way around with 9 spaces in the middle. The next thing to do is to draw the line across here. Now this part can get a little bit more confusing, because as you can see, some of them have lines across and some of them are just blank. So you have to at this point know which corner is going to be your go space and which corner is going to be the jail or whatever, so that you can match that up, because they are not all the same on every side. Now this space is 2 centimeters, so what you want to do again is measure 2 centimeters down from this top line. Do that sort of halfway and all the way on the other side, and then you're going to line it up to match this. I would just recommend going on Google and looking up a picture of Monopoly, and then you can match it up as you go around. And then you will have something like this, which you can go around again, same sort of method for each line, and I'm going to finally show you how to do the corner piece like this. Now, the measurements for this corner piece again are 2 centimeters, except obviously this time you're going to want to do 2 centimeters from the bottom rather than the top. And it gets a bit more complicated because obviously you're not quite going all the way around, so I recommend kind of doing a couple of lines, and this is definitely the point where you're going to want to have spare paint to go over the lines that you make. And now your whole board should be complete. All the other corners are just completely blank like this. You don't have to do anything extra to them. Once you've done all of the lines, I would recommend going over in a thicker pen, as I said, but then you will have a complete board. And then this is what you should have now, which is basically your finished board, and which means you can get on to putting sort of the middle, like whatever your theme is on it, as well as the spaces for the cards, which I will show you now with the theme that I did, which was obviously Pixar. You guys will have seen that already. But of course you can do whatever theme you want, like you can just use the Monopoly logo and switch up the bit above it, if that makes sense. One thing I get asked quite a lot about the board is about how do I make it a folding board, and the answer to that is I don't. So with the Harry Potter Monopoly one, I did actually cut down the middle and have it folding up, but I completely ruined my board essentially. Like, it's really, really fragile now. Like, any sudden movements, it is just gonna rip in half, and honestly I'm absolutely gutted that I did that. So I would not recommend folding this in half. You just have to live with the board like this, and that's my answer. The next stage is to then put your like title in the middle, and the best way to do this is, honestly, I do just eyeball it most of the time, but for the sake of this video I won't. So as you saw there, I basically lined up either end of the train stations, which is like the middle pieces, drill a line in the middle, and then I would do that again on this side. Again, I am just kind of eyeballing it because it really doesn't matter too much. And where that crosses over there is your middle point. You can then do the same again going sort of this direction. So if you line that up this way, like that, and then the same again in this direction. Oh, doesn't really matter if it's not perfect. But the way you then can do it is, I honestly just eyeball it, but I've just kind of traced this thing, which is the Monopoly logo. Obviously you can get this off of the internet, or if you have a real Monopoly board, you can just trace over the middle size. Mine's a little bit smaller because I just prefer it that way. And then I basically just guess, and if you just use this and you draw over it in a pencil and make sure you press like quite hard, you will have, you're not really going to be able to see it here, but you'll have like a little indent which you can then line up on your board, and that is where your Monopoly logo will be. And then obviously whatever you decide to do your title as, you'd put that the same distance like above, and that's what you have. So just while I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm going to show you how to draw the card stack here. So just what I use is just something that is the correct size, so roughly the size of the cards, which I'll leave the size of the cards on the screen somewhere here. Just literally cut out a piece of paper that is that size, and then what I normally do is, honestly, I just eyeball it. I line it up here with these two properties, and then I literally just move it up to what I think is about halfway between here and here, make any like adjustments that I think are necessary, and then once I feel like it's roughly in the right place, I literally just go around this box, or whatever it is that you've used, like your piece of paper or whatever, with the dotted lines to make the shape for the box. And it's literally as simple as that. And that is it. You should now have a completely blank board just like this, obviously with whatever theme that you choose to go with, and you're basically ready to go. I think I might make a part 2 to this video, which is more about how to then do all of the other parts of it, but I do have the create your own Monopoly video that kind of is supposed to be explaining this, but clearly I didn't explain it well enough. So let me know if you want to see a part 2 of this where I go into more detail about actual specifics of each of the spaces and stuff. I don't know. One thing I think I did forget to mention is, for paint, I use acrylic paint for absolutely everything to do with the Monopoly. So, yep, simple as that. Again, before you ask any questions, make sure you go and watch the other video that I did, because I explain a lot of stuff in that video as well. I'll link it in the description, put it in the cards, and I'll put it at the end of this video. Basically, it'll be very easy to find. But other than that, that is everything for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was better explained than the previous one that I did. And let me know if you want to see part 2 where I go into the more detail. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos on tutorials on things like this, as well as all my other videos. But that's it for today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.